So many companies will tell you they do asset management, but are they really? What if I told you that, for most of them, what they call asset management is just a bunch of disconnected tasks that completely miss the point? Well, let's dive in and talk about what it actually takes to build a system that creates real, genuine value.
So you've got to ask yourself this question. Is your organization truly practicing strategic asset management, or are you just doing maintenance? Or maybe capital planning, or just some asset accounting? It's a really critical distinction to make because it's the difference between simply doing stuff and actually creating value.
And here's what that looks like. On one side, you've got all these fragmented activities. You know the drill. Maintenance is working in its own silo, finance is over in another. It's kind of disorganized. But good asset management? That's a totally integrated system. It brings strategy, risk, performance, and investment all together into one single, coherent framework where everything just works together.
And just so we're all on the same page, let's use the official definition from ISO 55000. It says asset management is the coordinated activity of an organization to realize value from assets. Now, the key word there, the most important word, is value. It's not just about keeping the lights on or fixing things when they break. It's about making sure every single asset you have is actively contributing to the organization's goals. So how do we get there? That's the big question, right? Luckily, there's a clear pathway. Think of it as a 7-step journey to get from where you are now to a fully integrated system. This is going to be our roadmap for this explainer. It's designed for impact, speed, and most importantly, sustainability. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? The first 2 steps are all about laying a rock-solid foundation and getting a really honest look at where you're starting from. Okay, step 1, executive alignment. And listen, this is absolutely crucial. Asset management isn't some technical project you can just hand off to the maintenance team and forget about. No. It's a top-down, full-on governance transformation. Your leadership team has to be the one to define what value even means for the organization, what the appetite for risk is, and what the long-term ambition looks like. You see, without that clarity right from the top, you're just going to end up with a pile of useless documents instead of a real transformation. Next up, step 2, diagnose before you prescribe. I mean, it sounds so obvious, but you'd be surprised how often this gets skipped. You need to use established frameworks to assess where your organization is right now, its current maturity. You have to understand your starting point before you can even think about charting a course forward. After all, you just can't improve what you don't truly understand. So once that foundation is in place, we can start building the core systems. This is the engine of your new approach, the governance and the decision-making frameworks. Step 3 is all about establishing organization-wide governance. You see, in big organizations, fragmentation is the silent killer. When every single region or department is just doing its own thing, they might be optimizing their little corner of the world, but the entire enterprise suffers. Standardization, for things like asset hierarchy, risk, and KPIs, is really the only antidote to that. Now, this perfectly illustrates a super common trap. For way too many organizations, big investment decisions boil down to one simple question: is there money in the budget? It's a completely reactive way of doing things. But real asset management shifts from that reactive mindset to one of value optimization. The question is no longer just about the budget. It becomes a strategic balancing act between 3 critical elements: cost, risk, and performance. This, right here, is where you start to really influence capital allocation for long-term health and sustainability. And of course, you can't possibly make those balanced decisions without good data. That brings us to step 5. The point here is simple, but it is so profound. If you don't have a reliable asset register, there's no way you can make reliable decisions, period. Fixing your data foundation isn't just some IT project. It is a core strategic enabler for everything else we're talking about. Okay, so we've got the strategy and the framework all mapped out. Now let's talk about the final stage. How do we make this a living, breathing part of the organization? Step 6 is all about being smart with your implementation. Look, you should never, ever try to transform an entire national-scale organization all at once. That's a recipe for disaster. The real key is to pilot, prove, and then scale. Pick a few strategic pilot projects, show some clear, measurable value, get those early wins on the board, and then you can start systematically rolling the approach out across the board. And finally, step 7, you have to institutionalize it. For this new way of working to actually survive, it has to be woven into the very fabric of the company.
It needs to be embedded in corporate KPIs, in the budget cycles, in the risk management processes, and in the performance metrics for your top executives. If it just lives on the outside of the core system, it's eventually just going to fade away.
You know, when you follow these 7 steps, you end up with something so much bigger than just a new process. You actually create a fundamental shift in the entire company's mindset.
And this is the real power of good asset management. It becomes the disciplined connective tissue for the whole organization. It's what connects that high-level strategy to the day-to-day operations on the ground. It builds a solid bridge between engineering and finance. And maybe most importantly, it connects the investments we make today to the resilience we're going to need tomorrow.
So, if you take one thing away, let it be this. Asset management is not just another department you can create or some task you can delegate.
It is a way of thinking. It's a disciplined culture of decision-making that has to spread across the entire organization to be effective.
And the ultimate outcome of adopting this new mindset, your organization finally makes the shift from reactive and often wasteful spending to truly intentional strategic value creation.
So where do you even begin with all this? Here's a little micro action for you. Sometime today, just find one asset in your world. Could be a piece of equipment, a vehicle, a building, anything. And just ask one simple question. Is this asset truly creating value in line with our goals? That one question right there, that's the start of this entire journey.